we are now going to make a thrusting tip. This is yoga mat, or sleeping pad, or any other little trademark thing that has closed cell foam as its basis. You can, if you have connections, you can get refrigerator foam, which is about that thick compared to what I have here, and it makes it a lot easier to make thrusting tips because you don't have to build up layers. But since I'm doing this video for general folks who don't always have those kind of connections, we'll be using this stuff. Alright, so society minimums are now 3/4 of an inch of progressive give with no bottoming out and a nice soft tip. It used to be 1.5 inches, then it went to 1.25 inches, now it's going to 3/4 of an inch. Many people are shuddering because they don't think 3/4 of an inch is going to be enough padding. There will be an adjustment period, and hopefully people will learn that they don't have to gack you so hard to get a thrust in. This is not the forum to talk about where to thrust or how hard to thrust, so I'll just get to making this tip for you. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how much I need. The simplest way to do that is to just mark it out. And this is 3/8 of an inch thick. So 2 pieces of it should be 6/8 of an inch or 3/4 of an inch. Doing the math there. Yes. Eventually you will learn how to use fractions no matter how much you hate them. Alright, so that's roughly what I want. 3/8, 6/8, 3/4. Use my trusty little snips. There we go. Don't need this anymore, hopefully. So the key here is that this is foam. If we put pressure on it, it squeezes. And you say, duh, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that if we put pressure on it while we're taping it to our tip, then 3/8 of an inch becomes less than 3/8 of an inch, and there's no squish left in it. So the critical bit is to not put enough pressure on the foam that it compresses. What I'm doing here is I'm trimming a little extra off. Not that it really matters, because it will squish in the opposite direction too. But then it'll become a little more dense than we need it. So let's just try to keep it as close as possible to what we're doing. Alright, so what are we going to use to attach this to the sword? Well, first of all, let's do a little measurement test, because I recall this being 3/8 of an inch, and yes, I am correct. That is at the 3/4 mark. 3/4 of an inch. You can probably not see this. Let's zoom it in for us here. Figure out where our center is. There we go. And voila, we have just about 3/4 of an inch there. In fact, that's 3/4 on the dot. I may put a third layer on. Alright, so what are we going to use? Well, we're going to use not this, the strapping tape once again. Let me zoom back out so I don't have to be so careful as to what I'm doing. Okay, there we are. And so we have to be careful when we do this. We don't want to compress the foam in any particular direction, but we want it to be snug because we don't want it falling off. We don't want our tip breaking off. Alright, so what am I going to do? Well, first things first. I am going to build a little cup that this is sitting in. Okay. And we'll just place the next piece right in there. Doesn't matter that it folds over a little bit. We're going to build another layer anyway. So that's in there really loosely. Ah ha ha, we got a rollover. Rollovers are no fun. Okay, fine. Let's undo this mess. A little bit of waste. Oh well. Okay. And voila, we're still at 3/4 of an inch. I have not compressed my foam. Thank goodness. Alright, so right now the strength of our tape is in this direction. We want strength in this direction too. Reason being is that this head is going to take damage in all directions. And if we only have our fibers going one way, then shear force will allow the tape to just be cut. It'll eventually cut anyway. There are advanced methods of putting these on, which I'm not going into here. They can involve anything from using pieces of ballistic nylon to pantyhose to create a little bag for them to sit in, which gives them a little bit more resistance to being torn off. In this case, however, I'm just building your basic thrusting tip. Again, I'm trying to exert very little pressure on the tip, because if I exert pressure, it causes compression, which means I have to put another layer on, and even then I may not have the amount of squish that I'm supposed to have.